Hello and welcome to the Brampton Focus All Candidates Debate 2015, coming to you from Cyril Clark Lecture Theatre in Brampton, Ontario. My name is Michael A. Charbonne. I'll be your host and moderator for today. Tonight, Brampton Focus presents an all-candidate debate for the following Brampton federal ridings: Brampton North, Brampton South, Brampton East, Brampton West, and Brampton Central. All political candidates vying for a seat in any of these ridings were given more than 4 weeks' notice of this date and the creation of this debate. Seated in front of you are the candidates for the ridings vying for your vote to represent you, the people of Brampton, in Ottawa. This unique Brampton focus debate format positions Brampton candidates from the four major parties to sit together on a party desk. Party desk, that almost sounds fun. The objective is to focus these party candidates on the issues and the people of Brampton. So we would like them to address their positions from their party perspective as how they are going to represent you, the folks in Brampton. So I would like to introduce the candidates from each party who have put their names forward as candidates in the 2015 federal election. We're going to start with the Green Party. Miss Pauline Thornham. From Brampton South, Sean Hatton. Brampton Centre, Saul Butcher. Brampton East, Kyle Lacroix. From Brampton West, Karthinker Gobanith. And now the Liberal Party of Canada, starting with Ruby Sato. From Brampton South, Sonia Sidhu. She has unfortunately declined. Representing Brampton Centre, Ramesh Sangha. Brampton East, Raj Grewal. Brampton West, Carmel Kara. The New Democratic Party, or the NDP. Brampton North, Martin Singh. Brampton South, Amarjeet Sangha. Brampton Centre, Rosemary Keenan. Brampton East, Harborjeet Kaloon. Brampton West, Adoma Patterson. And the Conservative Party in Canada, representing Brampton North, Parm Gill, unfortunately declined. Brampton South, Kyle Seaback, also declined. From Brampton Centre, Bal Gozel declined. From Brampton East, Naval Baja declined. And Ninder Tind from Brampton West. Those are your candidates for tonight's debate. So I would like to now introduce our esteemed panel who will be posing many of the questions to our candidates today. Joining us today, the first panelist is Mr. Badar Shamim. Mr. Shamim is a graduate of Brock University Honors BA program. Badar has been employed with the TDBFG for the past 15 years. He is a certified financial planner, CFP, and holds the investment manager's designation from the Canadian Securities Institute. Over the past 7 years, Badar has served as a past director and treasurer of the Rotary Club of Brampton, as well as a past chair of the Brampton Board of Trade's Multicultural Committee. Badar also chairs the International Service Committee at the Rotary Club of Brampton and is the chair-elect for the Brampton Board of Trade. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Badar Shamim. Our second panelist is Ms. Sophie Brown-Ramsey. Sophia is a dedicated, innovative, and passionate professional with a proven track record for building community capacity and sustainable solutions within our communities. Sophia is known as an effective communicator and a connector with excellent motivation and leadership skills. She is respected throughout the nonprofit sector as a leader for change. Sophia is the program manager for the BCAN, the Black Community Action Network, and the vice chair for Correction Services of Canada. She also sits on RAC, which is a regional ethno-cultural advisory committee, and she is also the past chair of the United Way BCAC, Black Community Action Network. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ms. Sophia Brown-Ramsey. Our third panelist is Mr. Spider Jones. Spider Jones is an award-winning Canadian journalist. He's an author, former CFRB radio host, in addition to his professional boxing career. Three-time Golden Glove champion, he was inducted into the Canadian Boxing Hall of Fame, in addition to being a highly popular and sought-after motivational speaker. His book, called Out of the Darkness, spoke to his rise from the impoverished, gang-infested inner-city projects of Detroit and Windsor. Spider is the CEO of the acclaimed nonprofit Believe to Achieve organization, which assists children ages 8 to 16 in after-school personal development and mentorship. Spider Jones is also the winner of the Premier Award from the Province of Ontario for outstanding achievement and contribution to the community, the Edward R. Morrow Award for broadcasting, the Canadian Crime Victim Award, Seneca College Distinguished Alumni Award, as well as many others that we can't continue to list as we'd be here all night. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Mr. Spider Jones. And last but definitely not least, Mr. Rick Drennan. Rick Drennan is the managing editor of the Mississauga News and the Brampton Guardian and the the Business Times. He is an award-winning journalist who has worked with major corporations. He's run for political office, which I just recently saw the picture of Mr. Drennan trying to run for mayor. It was very good. He has also done numerous career elements to represent his distinguished career. Rick Drennan is a great guy, and he's the kind of guy you want to read. He's currently residing in Brampton. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Rick Drennan. All right, let's get to the meat and potatoes of this here. The rules as set out by the debate organization allows for a 2-minute response and a 45-second rebuttal. Questions will come from our panel and from Bramptonians who have either virtually forwarded their questions or via bramptonfocus.ca. And the questions submitted by you, our audience. We did solicit 4 questions in the audience, and we will be including some of them in our format today. At the conclusion of the debate, each party table will have an opportunity for 2 minutes to present a concluding statement reflecting on how their party will best represent Brampton in Ottawa. So the 2015 election is a very important political exercise. Polls tell us that the Canadian electorate is undecided. With the economy, jobs, infrastructure, foreign relations, and immigration at the forefront of the electorate's mind, it is Brampton Focus's objective to address these important issues as they will affect our great city of Brampton. To begin our debate today, Badar Shamim will pose our first question to one of the tables and one of the parties. Badar, please.
Thanks, Michael. So the first question goes out to the Green Party. Brampton's population is projected to increase in the next 15 to 20 years by approximately 300,000 people. Off late, I'm sure everybody here has heard a lot about infrastructure and the lack thereof. It's estimated that Canada as a whole has roughly $123 to $400 billion deficit in infrastructure development. Ontario Chamber of Commerce has been advocating for a more equitable distribution of those funds in local communities, perhaps on a per capita basis. How would your party address that issue? And more importantly, how would you support infrastructure development that will sustain municipal and environmental sustainable projects?
Okay, can you all hear me well? Okay. To answer a couple parts of your question there, first of all, you touched on a formula for how to allocate funding to different areas. One of the problems we have with how funding is allocated from the federal level down to the provincial and then down to the municipal level is that there often isn't a formula of any kind, which leaves allocations to be done politically or by convenience. Per capita is an obvious way to allocate money for things like infrastructure, but other considerations have to come in too. For example, depending on the age breakdown of the population, there may be different needs for infrastructure such as health services, and depending on the type of work being done in that location, if it's a rural area or an urban area, there's going to be very different needs in terms of transportation. So I would say that what we have to do is establish principle-based formulas for how to allocate funding. They should be established by law, so they have to be followed by, subsequent governments. And then with regard to the other part of your question, which was how Brampton would have its share of funding, we all know that Peel Region and Brampton in particular has been underfunded both provincially and federally in the past. It's caused a lot of problems because we've had explosive population growth. And we've seen this with the hospital and with other situations in Brampton where the reason we're having trouble is simply a matter of money. The problems are very solvable, but the money hasn't been sent here. And so what we need is strong advocacy at the federal level and at the provincial level to make sure that that money comes. Thank you.
I'll ask Ms. Sophia Brown-Ramsey to ask our next question, please. Oh, there was a rebuttal. I'm sorry. Please go ahead.
Thank you. So the New Democratic Party has a particular plan for this. It was stated by Tom Mulcair clearly. The New Democratic Party recognizes that there is an infrastructure deficit that exists not just in Canada, but also in particular here in Brampton. And so what it is that the particular plan that the New Democratic Party has is to transfer 1 cent off of the existing federal gas tax back to the municipalities. What this means for us here in this area in the GTA is stable funding, which is what the question alluded to, because without stable funding, you can't have good planning. Stable funding of $90 million. And for us here, this means less traffic, but it also improves our economy, because we know that without a sound infrastructure, that the economy starts to suffer. On top of all of this, all of these benefits, the New Democratic Party understands as well that this is going to create jobs in our area, which is important for diversifying the economy, because currently the Conservative Party is exclusively focused on oil and gas to the detriment, not just of the entire nation, but to Brampton in particular.
And Kamal from the Liberal Party.
The name's Raj Gurwal.
Raj, I'm sorry.
That's okay. The Liberal Party is the only party that's actually made an historical infrastructure announcement. Justin Trudeau has said that we're going to spend up to $125 billion. And so how does that trickle down to the city of Brampton and Brampton East in particularly? So we're going to invest $6 billion over the next 4 years in transit. We all live in Brampton. We all see the congestion in Brampton. And what this is going to do, it's going to kickstart our economy, because right now we're in a recession and the people of Brampton need jobs. And any economist across the board has always said that government can create jobs. The best way the government can do this is with infrastructure spending. And the way we're going to do it is to ensure that we're going to run 3 modest deficits. And the only party that's been honest with Canadians has been the Liberal Party of Canada. And so directly, what is that going to mean for the people of Brampton? It's going to mean less congestion. We're going to ensure that the 410 is expanded in a timely fashion. 427 is expanded in a timely fashion. Streets like Beauvert and Mayfield, and as Brampton expands to the north, are expanded to ensure that people are spending less time commuting and more time at home with their families.
All right, thank you, sir. I'm just going to get Saul for Green Party for a final rebuttal on this question.
Sure, thank you. Every party, just to clarify, every party on stage here has an infrastructure plan that they've all announced in their platforms. But the element of the question that I think has to be addressed is, if you announce an amount federally, that's fine, but how do we know it's coming to Brampton? And so the issue of the formula is the key issue here, to make sure that that money, I don't care how many billion you allocate, what's coming to us?
Thank you, Mr. Butcher. Now we'll go to Sophia Brown-Ramsey and your question, please, ma'am.
Thank you. So this is for the NDP. So could you tell me, actually, Pierre Trudeau said that 5 minutes from the Parliament Hill, MPs were nobodies. I guess you guys didn't know that, right? Okay. Do local candidates have an important role to play in bringing local issues to the national stage? And if you believe that, can you tell me how you'll see your role in making this happen?
Thanks, Sophia. So bringing a local role to the national stage, is that what you're saying? Yeah. Okay, I'd like to refer, for example, to the infrastructure. Right now we know that infrastructure costs have been downloaded to the cities. So we are looking at 80% of the cost when we only get 8% of the revenue to do that. Now, in my role as an environmental advocate in Brampton, I've been sitting on panels such as the official plan review for Region of Peel, the official plan review for City of Brampton, and the official plan review for City of Mississauga. And we have addressed a lot of issues which will move us forward dealing with climate change, such as low-impact development, such as growing our tree canopy, such as renaturalizing our waterways. We've done things in the past that we thought were good when we did them, such as running water through concrete channels. But with modern science and data, we're looking at a situation where we realize we have to fix some of those situations. Low impact development is the way we work with our water wastewater systems to diffuse water from going straight into the river systems. All of those things require money. City of Brampton, Region of Peel, the conservation authorities have fantastic ideas for how we put in that kind of infrastructure. All we need right now is the commitment at the federal level, and Tom O'Carroll and the NDP are ready to work with cities. As Martin has pointed out, how we fund it is through that 0.5% on the gas tax. We're ready to work with cities and all levels of government to put in the infrastructure we need to move forward and address such issues as climate change, need for affordable housing, need for greener energies, especially in terms of transportation, and also green technologies in the energy industry.
Thank you, Ms. Keenan. Rebuttal, Raj Grewal from the Liberals.
I think the question focused on how can an individual MP make up a national voice for your local constituency. I think it goes down to adequate representation and what the Liberal Party's values, beliefs on democratic reform. Justin Trudeau is the only leader that has unveiled a plan for democratic reform, empowering each MP to ensure that they have more independent votes. And I think that's a very, very important distinguish between the other two parties. And we've seen the last 10 years, it's not your local voice in Ottawa, but rather it's Harper's voice in your riding. Justin Trudeau is committed to ensuring that democracy in its purest form, which is to ensure that if you become the member of parliament, you're your local voice in Ottawa. And we always say at the Liberal Party of Canada, we're going to earn it the old-fashioned way, one house at a time and one vote at a time, and we're going to be accessible members of parliament. And we started that right in the campaign, especially in Brampton East.
Thank you, Mr. Grewal. I'll go to Adoma Patterson.
Yes. The NDP has been very deliberate about making sure all of us as candidates reflect the diversity in the community. The best way for local issues to be advanced nationally are for folks, the candidates, to really reflect and understand the issues and then be consistent advocates. So the last 10 years, many of the MPs in Brampton and in Peel region have not been fighting for Brampton's fair share, and this is why we have the void. But the NDP party, and particularly those of us in Brampton, understand the issues. We know we speak from different voices, both as parents, coming from different communities, and can bring that voice to Ottawa.
Thank you, Ms. Patterson. Kyle Lacroix, final rebuttal here for the Greens.
Well, one thing I'd like to point out is, to quote our Prime Minister, let me be perfectly clear on this. Our party does have, we are trying to vie for proportional representation. We've been putting that through, it's in our policy. Another issue I want to touch up on is whipped votes. The Green Party is the only party with a policy of no whipped votes, which means we are able to push forward the issues that are important to our constituents rather than our party.
Okay, thank you, Kyle. I'm going to stop you there. Thank you. Next question coming from our panel, Mr. Spider-Jones.
Thank you. I, first of all, would like to commend the Conservatives for the no-show, but I'm just thinking they take orders very well. My daughter lives in Brampton for the last 30 years. I had her when I was 10, of course. And my grandchildren go to school in Brampton. It's a wonderful place, but one thing that I have come to understand being an advocate for young people is that the middle class paying jobs are disappearing faster than invisible man in this area. Now, I'm going to direct this first to the Liberal Party. What do you see in that area? How can we turn things around? Because we hear a lot of things, but young people that I deal with, many of them graduate from high school, they graduate from university, and they still can't find a decent paying job, and all they get is promises. And I know people would like to hear your plan to turn this around.
Ruby Sahota, Liberals.
Well, thank you for your question, Mr. James. I think the Liberal Party has a fantastic plan to end youth unemployment and also invest in our children. This is, something that many Bramptonians face. I grew up in Brampton, and at the graduate school level, I had to move away to find job opportunities. So what we're going to do as a party, we're going to invest and take that historic investment that Mr. Raj was talking about, the $1.25 billion. A huge portion of that is going to go towards social infrastructure and creating post-secondary education, also investing in our youth and creating, youth unemployment is at an all-time high. We know it's at 13.1%. 170,000 less youth are unemployed today than they were in the last recession. So what we're going to do is we're going to invest $1.3 billion over the next 3 years. That's 13 times more than the NDP is willing to invest. And we're going to create jobs for youth, and specifically in the green area. We're also going to create internships. We're going to support universities to create more co-op placements for youth so that they can get the experience that they need to get a proper job. We'll also be waiving employment insurance premiums for employers that hire young people 18 to 24. So this will have a great impact on motivating companies to hire young people, and this is what we need. We need to give them some incentive to hire these people, and then once they have the experience, the world is their oyster, and they'll have that level that they need to compete, in this world market today.
Thank you, Ms. Sahota. So I'll go to Harbaljeet Kalan from the NDP.
Thank you, Michael. So the NDP plan for youth unemployment, which in Peel is 19%, which is higher than the national average, which is a serious problem. So Thomas Mulcair has a plan for 40,000 new youth employment opportunities at the federal level. And I recognize that this may not be relevant for all ridings, but it will be for Brampton. And the reason for that is we border with Malton. Malton has the largest airport, Lester B. Pearson, which is the largest airport in Canada, which has many jobs. And there's a lot of people from my riding of Brampton East who work at the airport. So 40,000 jobs, you could bet that a big chunk will benefit Bramptonians. In addition to that, we have a plan to invest in our small businesses, which create 78% of the private sector jobs in Canada. 78%. And we have a plan to reduce their tax by 20% to help create jobs.
Thank you. One more coming from the Liberals here.
Most importantly, the question actually reflected what are we going to do for the middle class? The Liberal Party is the only party that's going to raise taxes on the top 1% of Canadians to ensure that middle-class Canadians get a tax break, an effective rate about 7%, putting $1,400 back in your pockets. And we're going to create almost 40,000 youth jobs. Youth unemployment in Canada is 13.1%, which is double the national average. In the last 10 years of the Harper decade, they have done nothing to address this issue. And the Liberal Party of Canada is the only party that has a plan to ensure that youth unemployment comes down in a systematic way.
Raj Grewal from the Liberals, thank you. I'll go now to Mr. Drennan. Rick Drennan, your question, sir.
Thanks, Michael. Being a bit of a student of history and politics and also comedy, especially Comedy Central, one of my favorite moments in politics was when Clint Eastwood at the Republican convention talked to an empty chair who was supposed to be Barack Obama. Well, I'm going to direct my question to the empty table where the Conservatives are supposed to be sitting. Few, if any, parties have been reelected during a recession or an economic downturn. Is the low tax policy of the Conservatives enough to help us through the recession and beyond? And why is your party's plan better than the others for igniting the Canadian economy? Let's throw that at the NDP, I guess, instead.
So we'll go to the NDP to respond, please. Thank you, Rick.
Is this the 2 minutes?
Yes, it is a 2 minute. You'll have a 2 minute for it.
I'll take it. So we've seen clearly that the Conservative plan isn't working. Over the Harper decade, for the last 10 years, we've seen 400,000 good-paying manufacturing jobs leave Canada. we've seen the worst job growth record since the Second World War. We've also, at this moment, we're in not our first, but our second recession. And that's all due to the Harper policies, which has brought Canada into this point. So what we're proposing is, let's diversify our economy. Let's remove all of our attention, not all of it, but let's remove our attention from fossil fuels, and let's diversify our economy so that we're reviving our manufacturing sector as well as supporting our small businesses. And the way we're going to do that is that we're going to provide tax incentive breaks to the manufacturing sector so that if they invest in plants, if they invest in factories, if they invest in jobs here, you will get a tax break. Unlike the Liberals and Conservatives who like to give blank checks to corporations and are scared to ask corporations to pay their fair share, we will start doing that. And when we do that, what's going to happen is it's going to bring jobs back. It's going to help, and the second part of our plan is to help small businesses. Like I said before, the small business creates 78% of jobs. We want to propose reducing their tax by 20% from 11 to 9%. So the mom and pop shops that we see in corner stores, in plazas, around Brampton, get a break and they could help kickstart our economy.
Harbaljit Kalam, thank you very much. Rebuttal from the Greens. Saul Butcher, please.
Thanks. So you mentioned low taxes in your question, and you asked if the low tax plan is working. Clearly, after 2 recessions, I would say it's not. One of the issues we have to look at is the corporate tax rate. Currently, the corporate tax rate in Canada is 15%, which is the lowest in the industrialized world. The Green Party is proposing to raise it to 19%. One of the problems with having a low corporate tax rate is you end up with what's called cash hoarding, which is where corporations just keep a whole bunch of money in their accounts because they're not being taxed, instead of reinvesting it. So the moment you raise that rate, you give them an incentive to get that money out and get it working, because money that sits still does nothing.
So, and the final rebuttal will go to the Liberals, Raj Grewal.
The most remarkable thing is that we all know that the last 10 years of the Harper decade isn't working. But the NDP's plan is the Harper plan. They will not raise taxes on top 1% of Canadians, and they keep on giving tax breaks to millionaires. The only party that has a plan to kickstart our economy. Let it be known, we are in a recession. The first 3 months, it was 0.8% negative decline. The second 3 months was 0.5. So we've had 2 terms of consecutive negative growth. The most interesting part of that is our neighbors to the south, the United States, in the first 6 months have grown their economy by 4%. So what's going on in Canada? Right now, we need infrastructure spending, and we need to run modest deficits to ensure that we kickstart our economy, to ensure that people go back to work. We fix an aging infrastructure. We ensure that there's affordable housing and that every Canadian has an opportunity to make it.
Thank you, sir. So I have the opportunity to ask the next question. And this was an internet question, so I'm going to ask each party to give their answer. I'm going to start with the NDP. The same question, but everybody gets a 2-minute to answer it. The question, as submitted to Brampton Focus, states that as an MP, when a situation arises that a bill is put forward that conflicts with the interest of the party and the interests of your citizens in your riding, which interest would you be inclined to vote for and why? I'll start with the NDP.
I can share with you, Martin Singh, Brampton North, that I've been canvassing since the end of December 2014, and we've been going 7 days a week now for a number of months. And what I find that's absolutely fantastic when I go door to door is that the interest of my constituents, in fact, reflect the policies of the New Democratic Party. The New Democratic Party is interested in creating jobs. They're interested in protecting health care. They're interested in making sure that those people who rely on the immigration system to bring their families over have that put in place. And so, in fact, what I'm seeing when I go to door is that the overwhelming majority of the residents in my riding see the New Democratic Party as their choice, and there is, in fact, no conflict.
So what is your choice, though, Mr. Singh? If the party has a certain doctrine and your citizens in your constituency have something which is different, how do you choose?
Well, in fact, what I'm sharing with you there, Michael, is I'm not seeing a difference between the 2 doctrines. I'm seeing that the reflection of my constituents is reflected in what Tom Mulcair and what I'm sharing at the doorstep. And so what happens then is that it shares with me that there's a change afoot. And we talk about this, and this is what the political dialogue is really in Canada right now. Canadians want change. They've seen what the Conservatives are offering, they've seen
Right.
what the Liberals
Thank you,
are offering,
sir.
and they don't want it.
Thank you. I'll go now to Ruby Sato. Same question. If your party has one perspective and the constituents in your riding have another, how do you deal with that?
Well, to answer your question, and actually answer your question, I think the constituents in the riding are the most important voice. And as my partners here have also said before, we are to be the voice of our riding in Ottawa. So our party has made that very clear. We have, a new leader that has different ideas, and he wants to be able to make sure that we represent our ridings. And so, we will be able to discuss these things at the table. And quite frankly, what the NDP is proposing, Martin Singh, that all the constituents agree with everything the NDP brings, strongly disagree with that, because what they're committed to is balancing the budget and not bringing forth plans for healthcare or infrastructure or all those other plans that they like to talk about.
So your statement then is, if the party is contrary to what the citizens of your constituents' point of view is, you choose?
I choose my constituents. I always choose my constituents. I am going to be their voice and represent them. But
just hold on.
I've been. If that question comes up, I'd be happy to address that question, and I'd take that question myself here today. And I've been talking, just like my opposition here is telling me that they've been canvassing and talking to people in the neighborhoods. I've been doing the same, and there's people on both sides of the fence on that. And I believe our party's position on that is the most balanced and most responsible position, but we can get into that in another question for sure. But once again, I just like to reiterate that we will be the voice of our community in Ottawa.
Ruby Sahota, thank you. And from the Green Party, same question. If your party has a particular position and the constituents from Brampton have another, how do you deal with that from a Green perspective?
Okay, so I'm going to give the members in the audience there who mentioned Bill C-51 a bit of respect and say that how it ties into representing our constituents, that many, many Canadians did not want that bill to pass. We wanted our parties to speak up against that. It was only our party that had mentioned something. We, as a party, do not go with whipped voting. All of the other parties have, and all of the other parties have had candidates kicked out because they have voted against the party policies rather than what the constituents have wanted. So that's something that we wish to do. We wish to put forward to show that we do care about the interests of the people who we represent more than the policies that are written by our leaders. When it comes down to it, we've got, a member who's already moved over from the NDP and joined over into to the Green Party to run for us because of this, because of the fact that they can, represent our interests, or not our interests, but all of our interests rather than just those of their particular partisanship. So yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. One rebuttal here. We'll go to the NDP, please. Martin Singh.
What is, I just want to make sure that we address the fact when political parties make promises, it's important that we hold them to them, right? When we speak about our Liberal opponents, there have been issues on the past when they have not been particularly forthcoming with their record. For example, our Liberal opponents have promised a national daycare or childcare program in 1993, 1997, 2000 and 2004, and broke that promise all of those 4 times. Now you might say to yourself, well, it's a new leader and we're in a new time. I understand that, so I can provide a more relevant and current example. Just in July in 2015, Justin Trudeau, leader of the Liberal Party, said that he was in favor of balanced budgets. Not 30 days later, he is against balanced budgets. So be wise.
And one final rebuttal before we go to break. We'll go to the Liberals, please.
So 2004, national daycare was up for a vote in the Jack Layton's government. The NDP voted against it, toppling Paul Martin's government. So today, had they been actually core to their NDP values, we would have national daycare. And more importantly, the reason that there's a need for infrastructure spending today is because the economic situation has changed, and monetary policy changes as economic situations should change. And as a pharmacist and a business owner, I would expect Martin Singh to know that.
Thank you, Raj Grewal. You're watching the 2015 Brampton Focus All Candidates Debate. We'll be back with more right after this.